Hello everyone, this is Rajiv Shukla and today we will discuss about the chapter of geography of class 10th. That is the first chapter. Chapter name is resources and development. So basically what we will discuss in this chapter, we will discuss about the classification of our resources and its development and its management in our nation and in the word contest. So, what we can see on the first page is that our environment, that institution, and technologies, these all are interrelated with human beings, that we are interacting to the physical environment as well as to the institutions and technologies also. So, basically, we have to just focus on this diagram, this flowchart, that is the classification of resources. That it is basically we can classify the resources under two major category, that is natural as well as human. So natural means what we are getting from nature, and human, that is human made, that is made by human. So the first point is natural. So natural can be further classified as renewable and non-renewable. Okay, so basically what does renewable means? Renewable means that resources which can renew. Just focus on this spelling, just focus on the word, that it contains its meaning also, that it can renew itself, just like wind and solar energy. It is abundant, that we are not having the scarcity of these resources. So we can renew, we can use it again and again. What about solar energy? Because as you can see, nowadays we are moving towards the old kind of energy sources to the new kind of energy resources, just like atomic energy as well as solar and wind power. Why we are moving towards them? Because it is less harmful for the environment as well as these are renewable resources. So the second point is non-renewable. So on the other hand, on the contrast of renewable sources, this is non-renewable, so which is not renewable, so which cannot be renewed. These resources are further classified under recyclable and non-recyclable. So just like coal, can you use it later? Can you use it again? No, is it not? So because we cannot use it again, it comes under non-recyclable, or that is fossil fuels, just like petroleum, just like uraniums, just like any other, that petrol, diesel, coal, and that wood also, that is non-recyclable, we cannot recycle it. And what is recyclable? That is iron, we can, up to some extent we can recycle it. So this is about this. And what comes under renewable sources? These are continuous or flow, that is wind and water. Okay, on the other hand, that is biological, that is natural vegetation and wildlife, because wildlife is also a resource for any particular country. So what we can see is that we can further classify these renewable resources under continuous or flow, that is wind is just blowing, that according to the physical demography of a nation, wind is blowing continuously, it is not that it is not scare. And other one is biological, that is related to our bios. So that is natural vegetation, that we can grow it again, we can grow it, we can just cut down the trees and just plant new trees. So this is all about the classification of our resources. So we have read, okay, one topic which is not covered yet, that is types of resources, that how many bases, how many categories we can do on some basis, just like on the basis of origin, that is biotic and abiotic resources. So what is biotic resources? These are obtained from biosphere and have life such as human being, flora, fauna, fisheries, livestock, etc. So basically what we can say is that these living things, just like flora and fauna, just like plant and animals and fisheries. So these are living beings. And abiotic, that is which is not living beings, just like rocks and metals. And other base is on the basis of exhaustibility. That exhaustibility is what? That how quick that any resources is end up, that if we are using that on a regular basis, or we are exploiting that resource very much, then it will be, obviously it will be end up. So some resources which can end, and some resources which is abundant, which is limitless to us, to our country, to our earth. These are, as you know, that non renewable sources which cannot be renewed, and renewable resources which can be renewed, as we discussed earlier. So on the basis of ownership, that who owns that, the first one is undercomes individual resources, and other one is that, okay, the particular, what does it mean individual resources? That the name suggests that if any person is having the ownership of that particular land and these resources, that is called individual resources. So the community owned resources, if a particular group of people, that is called community, is having that resource, then it is community having the resource. So the national resources, so on the other side, that is national resources, that whatever we are containing, whatever the resources we are having in our nation, that is our national resources. And what is international resources? This phenomena you have to understand, that on the earth there are some parts which is not under any country's territory, just like poles, that these are north pole and south pole. So as we know that there are no country's boundary, the ownership is not in the hand of any country. So these are called international resources. As we know, our students, that according to the 1968 UNCLOS law, a boundary of the ocean above that, apart from the 200 kilometers of the boundary line of a nation, the whole sea is come under the international resources. That is given here. The ocean resources beyond 200 nautical miles of the exclusive economic zone, that is EEZ. Okay, so beyond the 200 nautical miles, there is, that is called exclusive economic zone. Okay, that is open for all on the basis of the status of development, that is potential resources, developed resources, and stocks. That is potential. What does it means that by potential resources? That if we are containing something, we are containing so much resources or ore of some metals, and if we have not exploited it and we have not taken it out, so what is that? Okay, it has the resource, it has the potential, we have the potential, but not now. Okay, just like that, resources which are found in region but have not been utilized. What I have said, that for example, the western part of India, particularly Rajasthan and Gujarat, have enormous potential for the development of wind and solar energy, but so far these have not been developed properly. That Rajasthan and Gujarat is having so much potential for the wind power as well as for solar energy, but it is not being utilized. So these two states have the potential resources, but it is not being utilized. So the developed resources, the resources which we are using it currently, so these are called developed resources. And stocks, these are the materials, these are the ores or the capacity what we are having, but we have not that mined yet. Okay, we have not exhausted yet, we have not taken out. So these are called stocks. Okay, moving further. Okay, that development of resources, that what kind of the steps we have taken in under the then the development of resources. Under this topic, the important point is that sustainable development. This topic, this phenomena we have heard recently in various kind of meetings and various kind of seminars which are attended by our nation and other nations also. That what is sustainable development? Sustainable development means, sustainable economic development means development should be take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the need of the future generations. Okay, that we should develop our nation, but not at the cost of harm to the environment. So that is what is sustainable development. So what is Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992? That was a summit which was held in Rio de Janeiro, and that the year of that summit was 1992. So as you know that more than 100 countries have participated in that, on the global issues, that global climatic change was there. So they are discussing about the global climate change. So there was the important agenda was there, agenda 21, that is, it is a declaration signed by world leaders in 1992 at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, UNCED, which took place at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It aims at achieving global sustainable development. It is an agenda to combat environmental damage, poverty, disease through global cooperation on common interest, mutual needs, and shared responsibilities. One major objective of the Agenda 21 is that every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21. So, as we can conclude that this agenda was signed, this declaration was signed by many leaders, so just for the sake of global climate change, that they will do some measures, they will take some measures so that we can prevent the damage which we are doing to the environment. Okay, so resource planning, as we know that resources are limited, these are not unlimited to our earth, so we have to manage it properly. So resource planning in India, what does it means is that resource planning is a complex process which involves identification and inventory of resources across the region of the country. This involves surveying, mapping, and qualitative and quantitative estimation and measurement of the resources. So this is the primary and the first step which is taken for the management of the resources. that we have to identify that which particular area of our nation, of our that particular state is having that resource. So for that, what we will do, we will do some kind of surveys, some kind of mappings, and what is the quality of that particular resource and how much the quantity we are having under that reason. We have to figure it out. So, involving a planning structure endowed with appropriate technology, skill, and institutional setup for the implementing resource development plans. So we have to use various kind of techniques. We have to that set up some institutions for the research purpose for that, so that we can do it in a better way. So matching the resource development plans with the overall national development plans. So we have to just take it in a path that we can just connect these in the national development plans, that we will use it for the our nation or we will export it. What we will do, what if we are not going to extract that material, or we will use it later, or what. So we have to connect it. So we have discussed. So on the next page, what is that? At the international level, the Club of Rome advocated resources conservation for the first time. That okay, so we are discussing about that what is the history, what is the history for the resource management. So this is the history that Club of Rome advocated resource conservation for the first time. So this was the first time when any country or any particular society was conveying some message for the purpose of resource management. So what was that? And when it was happened, then that is 1968, and where? That is Rome. Okay, so later on in 1974, the Gandhian philosophy was once again presented by Schumacher in his book Small is Beautiful. Okay, so this Gandhian philosophy, so you have to notice that Gandhiji also thus focused on the resource management, that you are having the resources, then you have to utilize this properly. So that just that by Schumacher in his book Small is Beautiful. So later on, okay, we will discuss that our land resources. So as you know, the land is also a resource. Okay, land is what? Land is a that house of, that is a land is a, the box of all the kind of materials, metals, uraniums, and all the kind of ores. And it is also useful for the building purpose or the space purpose. So that is also a resource. Land is also a resource. So what we can see in the context of India, what we can locate, what we can just categorize in this pie chart, that our 43% of our nation's land is plain, and our 30% is mountain, and our plateaus are 27%. So this is the broad, this is a broad classification of our land structure, or the, that is a demography of our nation. Okay, so on the next page, what we can categorize, we can see, we can compare these two pie charts. These are the land uses category. So what we can categorize, what we can compare in between these two, these are 1960 to 1961, that are, what is area, that is 46.26% was under area under non-agricultural uses. Okay, so now you can just figure it out, you can just compare that what is the particular change in what field, and what is, and which kind of use we are increasing, and what percent is decreasing. So It is that total geography and that okay, the total geographical area of India is 3.28 million square kilometer. Okay, so this is what you can just compare it. Okay, so the later on the forest area in the country is far lower than the desired 33% of the geographical area as it was outlined in National Forest Policy 1952. Okay, so this was the international declaration, and it was the proposed by one of the that very famous person, that every nation's land should be covered on the 33% by the forest. So, what we are having, what percentage we are having, is that we are having nowadays it is only 23.3%. So we have to just cover a long distance to cover it up to 33%. Okay, so we are coming towards the land degradation and conservation measures. Okay, so what okay, as we know that land is also a resource and we have to manage it properly. So what are the harms we are causing to the land? Okay, so okay, mining sites are abandoned after excavation work is complete, leaving deep scars and traces of overburdening in states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha. Deforestation due to mining have caused severe land degradation. In okay, so as you know that Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Odisha, okay, there the lot of mining industries, uh, thousands of mining industries are there, and they are just mining their resources and ores, and due to that land of that state are being degraded and causes severe land degradation and corrosion. So, in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, overgrazing is one of the main reason for land degradation. And in Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh, over irrigation is responsible for the that land degradation. Okay, as we know that our whatever we are doing, that irrigation is also responsible for the land degradation. Okay, so on the right side what you can see is that it is a soil profile, that how many categories you can divide, how many layers you can find it out. So these are the top layer. So that is topsoil, the upper soil layer, the subsoil, and that is the substratum, and this is unweathered parent bedrock. Okay, so okay, so we have to just focus on the classification of soil. This is very important chapter, this is very important point of this chapter. So you have to just focus that what is the every soil. As you know that every soil is not similar. If you are going towards one place to another, so you can find some different type of soil. So how you can just classify, on what basis you can classify, just figure it out. That the first one is alluvial soil. This is the most widely spread and important soil. In fact, the entire northern plains are made of alluvial soil. These have been deposited by three important Himalayan rivers. These are river systems: the Indus river system, the Ganga river system, and the Brahmaputra river system. These soil also extend in Rajasthan and Gujarat through a narrow corridor. Alluvial soil is also found in eastern coastal plains, particularly in the deltas of the Mahanadi, the Godavari, and the Krishna and Kaveri rivers. So, okay, so just read it first. The alluvial soil consists of various proportions of sand, silt, and clay. Okay, so first just focus on this diagram. Let's focus on the map. That alluvial soil is denoted by that this light green color. So as you can see that most of the northern plain part, which is very, that river rich portion, so major portion is covered by the Himalayan rivers. So and this is also plain area, so this is covered by alluvial soil. This alluvial soil is very rich in minerals, and as you know that that Uttar Pradesh, as well as the part of Punjab, part of that okay, the some part that okay, most of the part of Gujarat and some part of Rajasthan is also covered by this alluvial soil. And on the eastern side of our nation, and as we know that if you are taking a cross section of our nation, then it is downslope towards the east of the nation. So most of the rivers, that India's most of the rivers are flowing towards the east, from west to east. And we can find on the deltas, okay, just let me use the pen. Okay, from here and these are the areas. Okay, these are the areas where you can just figure that this is the area of alluvial soil. So what you can assume, what you can figure it out, what you can analyze is that these are the areas where river that rivers are there. And what you can say about this area, these are the delta area of the rivers. Here, that here is the Hooghly river. Okay, here is the Hooghly river, and this one is Brahmaputra. Okay, and this one is Indus, and there are this Satluj, Vyas, and all other rivers are there. So these are some rivers. These are some rivers which carry the silt and all the nutrients from the mountain regions, and they just throw it in these plain areas. So this area is very fertile due to this alluvial soil, and this is just because of the rivers. The rivers plays a vital role. The rivers plays very significant role in forming these kind of plain areas having the alluvial soil. Okay, so moving further. Okay, so as we have discussed that alluvial soil is consist of various proportions of sand, silt, and clay. You know that for the sake of information, I just want to tell you that for any kind of good soil, that each and every size of that grains should be there. If any particular size, that if you are just suppose that 5 that 20 micron size of one particle of the sand is there, and if only there is only 20 micron particles, then it will not called be a good proportion. That every soil should contain each and every size of the particles, then it should be called, then it will be considered as a good soil. That our Uttar Pradesh and Punjab and that Assam's portion are having this soil which is very rich of sand, silt, and clay. So according to their age, alluvial soil can be classified as old alluvial. That okay, so alluvial soil can be further classified as the Bangar and Khadar. So So how you can do that? The Banga soil has higher concentration of conker, okay, than Khadar. So the conker portion is heavier. The conker portion is heavier in Bangar soil. But what about the Khadar soil? Soil is not having that conker portion, and it has more fine particles and is more fertile than the Bangar. So Khadar is more fertile and it is having more fine particles. But what about the Bangar, and what about the Bangar soil? It is having more conker portion. So that is not very fertile in compared to Khadar. So moving towards the other name, that moving towards the other type of soil, that is black soil. So as the name suggests, its color look like black, so that is named as black soil. So what about this? That these soil are black in color and are also known as regur soil. Black soil is ideal for the growing cotton and is also known for black cotton soil. So, as we can just figure that this soil is having a black color and it is very good for growing such what kind of crops? That is cotton crops. So, this type of soil is typical for Deccan Traps basalt region. Okay, is spread over northwest Deccan plateaus and is made up of lava flows. They cover the plateaus of Maharashtra, that is Saurashtra, Malwa, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh, and extend in the southeast direction along the Godavari and Krishna valleys. So, we have to just move it on the map of India. So what we can just figure it out, that this light black color, you can just see that, 1 minute. Okay, so what you can just see is that this portion of our India, okay, this portion of our India is having the black soil. That some portion of Gujarat as well as most of the portion of Madhya Pradesh, so is that Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra also is okay. Very few part of Uttar Pradesh is also there, so is rich in black soil. So that is good for, as we know that, as we have discussed. Okay, so we can just say that this is also, we can we must have been knowing that this is a plateau region. So what we can assume, what we can just think of it, that it is made up of lava which flows during the time of during the time of the formation of the continents. At that time it happened that this lava flows towards this direction and it, layer by layer, it forms this kind of soil. So okay, moving towards further, that okay, that okay, in addition they are rich in soil nutrients such as calcium carbonate, magnesium, potash, okay, lime. Okay, so just discussing about the and that nutritions of this soil, particular soil, this is having a rich amount of calcium carbonate, magnesium, potash, and lime. Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, okay, so these soil are generally poor in phosphoric content. Okay, the phosphoric content is very low in this soil. So moving towards the red and yellow soil, red soil develops on the crystalline igneous rocks in areas of low rainfall in the eastern and southern part of the Deccan Plateau. Yellow and red soil are also found in a part of Odisha, Chhattisgarh, southern part of the Middle Ganga Plains, and along the predominant zone of the Western Ghats. Okay, so this soil, okay, just for the sake of identification, so red and yellow soil, you can just figure out that our main portion, this is this area, and these are the seven sister areas. So this portion is covered by red and yellow soil. Okay, so as you must be knowing that these are the part of Odisha and some part of that Telangana and Andhra Pradesh is also there, the Kerala is there and the Goa is there. So and that Chhattisgarh is also there, and this is west, some part of the West Bengal is also there. So you have to just figure it out that this red and yellow soil is found in most of the part of the India. Okay, so moving further, that laterite soil. Okay, laterite soil, what about this is, the first point of the laterite soil is that it is acidic in nature. So acidic means what, as you know that according to the chemistry, that pH value of that is below the 6. Okay, so occurs mostly that generally deficient in plant nutrients and occur mostly in southern state, western Ghat region of the Maharashtra, Odisha, some part of the West Bengal and northeast regions, where these soils support deciduous and evergreen forest. Okay, it is humus rich, but under is that sparse vegetation and in semi-arid environment. As you can see in this picture, that laterite soil is there, how it looks like. And just moving further, that it is useful. Okay, just you must be knowing that which kind of crop is good for what, that why it is important and how it is having the economic value, that this soil is useful for the growing tree and that is growing tea and coffee. Laterite, that red laterite soil in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and more suitable for crops like cashew nut. Okay, so as we have discussed that it is having a humus rich, so this is having a good amount of plants nutrition it can offer. Okay, so that is good for growing tea and coffee and good for cashew nut irrigation or cashew nut production. So that next one is arid soil. Arid soil ranges from red to brown in color. They are generally sandy in texture and saline in nature. Okay, this soil is having a good amount of that salt content. So that is its nature is saline. Okay, so in western Rajasthan we can find this kind of soil. Okay, so moving further, that is the forest soil. These soils are found in hilly and mountains areas where sufficient rainforest are available. So the soil textures varies according to the mountain environment where they are formed. So okay, so now we have discussed that what kind of soils are there. We can classify that the classification of soil and in that particular soil is of which kind. So we have discussed it in a very good way. So now let's just discuss about the soil erosion and soil conservation. So that is soil erosion and conservation is, and that soil erosion is what, it is cutting of soil due to some reasons, due to water or rainfall or there. So that is not good for any state or any country, and not good for that irrigation purpose, or not good for the economical value. So so we have to conserve it, we have to that preserve it, we have to give some protection from the erosion. So these are the gully erosion, or that is sheet erosion. So gully erosion is what you can see, wait a minute, Okay, in this you can see that these are some gully like structures which are made due to the corrosion. And in this diagram the one okay, if you are suppose, okay, in this that sheet by sheet erosion is there, and in that it is only gully like structures are formed due to corrosion. So these are gully erosion and sheet erosion. Okay, so how you can just prevent it, you can do the contour plowing and terrace cultivation restricting erosion. Okay, what is contour plowing? Contour lines of is what? Contour lines are the two connecting lines having the same height. This is called contour plowing. If you are doing your cultivation, you are doing that irrigation according to the contour plowing, then your water will not blow towards the down areas. It will prevent your soil erosion. So that is necessary, that is helpful for the prevention of soil erosion. Okay, the other one is terrace cultivation, restrict that erosion. Terrace cultivation is just like same, that you have to okay, let me just figure one diagram here. Okay, that terrace farming is what you can just, okay, if you are just having the hill areas and you are just making some kind of flat areas here. Okay, so here you can grow some crops. Okay, here you can grow some crops because you are having the flat land, and there is not a slopy area, so your water will not flow down. So this kind of cultivation technique are useful for the prevention of soil erosion. So just moving, okay, strip cropping is also important. So this is all we have discussed. We have discussed a lot, just like starting from the first point. Let me just move towards the first page. Okay, so we have discussed what? We have discussed the types of resources, that on what basis we can classify the resources, and we have discussed on each and every point, and what are some other basis of classifications we have discussed. So, what is sustainable development? We have discussed that Rio de Janeiro summit in 1992. It is, we have discussed, and what is Agenda 21 and how is it is useful for our Earth to prevent our environment. We have discussed, and what kind of resource planning in India, and what are the steps which have to be taken while the resource planning. It is, we have discussed, and that international, on the international level, when it was the first presented by which nation in 1968, and later on it is discussed in small, that small is beautiful in book by that Schumacher. And what is the proportion of plain mountains and plateaus in India, and this pie chart we have discussed, and later on we have discussed that what is land degradation, and in various part of the India is having what kind of problem due to that land degradation is occurring there, just like Jharkhand, Gujarat, and Punjab. So various kind of that mining activities are there in Jharkhand, and that overgrazing is there in Maharashtra, and overburden of irrigation is also there in Punjab, Haryana, and Western Uttar Pradesh. Due to that, land degradation is happening there. We have discussed, and the very important point of this chapter is classification of soil. We have covered on very fine basis. So we have discussed that alluvial soil, black soil, and later on we have discussed this. Okay, I just want to tell you that this diagram is very important. Okay, you have to just practice it at your home, taking one political map and drawing the areas of these kind of soil, having various that with having that some color schemes, use different color, and just draw that the portion which are having which kind of soil. Just practice this map at your place. And later on we have discussed that laterite soil, red yellow soil, arid soil, forest soil. And later on we have discussed that what is soil erosion and how you can conserve. And later on we have discussed also about the contour plowing and terrace cultivation, what is terrace cultivation, and strip cropping. So we have discussed all the points of this chapter. I will provide the notes as well as the question answers. So let us just do it by yourself also, and if there is any problem just ask me. Okay, so this is all about this chapter. I hope you got the better understanding about all the topics here. So best of luck, and just revise this chapter. I'll provide this PDF also on your group, so that just do it and revise it at your home. Up to then, take care. Bye bye.